Yeah, good morning, great students of Better Faith Group of Schools. Trust you people are doing well and keeping safe. My name is Ehime Udwe. You are welcome to another episode from Better Faith e-learning platform. This is for SS2 and SS3, today being the 15th day of July 2020. We'll be considering the word comprehension. Okay? The whole essence of English language is our ability to read and understand a given passage. Okay? When you're given a passage, what you are expected to do is to read, understand, and put what you have understand on the sheet of paper. Okay? And by so doing, you are working with what? Comprehension. So what is comprehension? If I may ask you, comprehension is a process of reading, understanding, and explaining what is written in a passage, which means you must be given a passage. Okay? For every comprehension exercise, there must be what? A passage to be read. For every comprehension exercise, there must be given a passage to be read. From your junior school, GSS 1, to this your very level, be it SS2 or SS3, you have been reading comprehension. And what is the crux of the passage is for you to be able to explain what you have read. And while explaining what you have read, ability for you to put them on paper is another important point. So today I want to give you the step-to-step approach to comprehension. Students will always say, "Uncle, I read this passage, I did not quite understand what the passage is saying. I read this, I did not quite understand what they are trying to pass across." First thing first, how do you read? While you are preparing for your SSC examination, your WAEC and your NECO respectively, you must be given a passage to answer. And when you have gone through the passage, many times you can read a passage and you will not be able to know what the passage is saying. Okay? So first thing first, number one here, to read the passage very carefully. Underline this word very carefully and make sure you understand the passage. What many of us do, many of my students, you are guilty of this. As you are reading, you are trying to compare the passage with the question. You are trying to compare the passage with the question. No. Take your time out. Read the passage. Every passage has a title. Every passage has a message to be passed across. Take your time out, study the passage very carefully, and make sure you understand what the passage is saying. Let's say, for example, a passage that has to do with economic recession. Okay? They give you a passage in your exam, economic recession. And they're trying to tell you something like GDP, trying to tell you something like GNP, trying to tell you something like national income and what have you. And you don't quite comprehend what they're saying. Go over the passage again. Okay? Because for every abbreviated word in the passage, the word must have been given in full before it was abbreviated. Okay? There is no passage that will give you GDP without facts in the subsequent paragraph telling you that, okay, GDP stands for what? Gross domestic product. It must have been explained in the first paragraph or in the second paragraph. But instead of, writing it in full, they want to give you an abbreviation. Then you now begin to ask your friend, what is GDP? You say, we go back. Now you need to read. There's a difference between reading and scanning. You don't scan through a comprehension passage, but you read through it. Okay? When you are scanning, you're just flipping through, trying to, you are browsing. It's like when you're using your mobile phone, you're browsing through, you're browsing through a page. You begin to see the speed at which you're reading through so that you are trying to minimize your MB. But you don't do that in a comprehension. Comprehension involves critical words, reading. That's what this number one is telling us. Read the passage very carefully and make sure that you understand the passage. Number two, in putting down your answer, they need not to be written in sentences unless otherwise stipulated. Your answer must not be written in sentences. Okay? Otherwise, except you are asked to do so. Okay? Let's say, for example, they ask you a particular question after you have read a passage. Avoid putting your answer in sentences. Okay? Unless you are asked to do so. But make sure that you are giving only one answer to a question. Now see, the reason why students fail comprehension passage is this. First thing first, they do not understand, there's no trust of understanding of what the passage is telling us. No understanding, they don't understand what the passage is saying. And now since you did not read the passage carefully, and now you want to give me an answer in a sentence format. No. Number two, in putting down your answer like what I have here, so you must ensure that your answer is not written in a sentence. Okay? It is only in your summary that will tell you in one sentence or two. In summary passages, it is well spelled out. Okay? In one sentence, tell us the writer's opinion. That's summary. Okay? And how do you write a sentence? A sentence always begins with a capital letter. Let's say, for example, economic recession. They'll tell you in one sentence. It begins with a capital letter, okay, and ends with a full stop. That's a sentence. If you begin a sentence, the next thing is what? It ends what? A full stop. Okay? But that is not so in a comprehension passage. So take note. In putting down your answer, they need not be written in sentences unless otherwise stipulated. Make sure that you give only one answer to a question. That's that. The number three, though you are free to use words from the passage in your answer, you must be able to use your own words or expression to show understanding of the passage. I always tell my students, it is better to use your own words, okay, in answering comprehension passage or than lifting what the writer said. Now, we have two types of comprehension. We have a comprehension that they will tell you according to the writer. Take note. If you are dealing with a composition that has to do with according to the writer, your answer must be according to the writer. Are we together? But when you're dealing with a comprehension passage that has nothing to do with according to the writer, it's just a freelancer. What's a freelancer? The writer just wrote. Nobody was referenced. You are expected to use your own word according to how you understand the passage read. According to your level of understanding. Take note. If you are giving a comprehension passage and they tell you, number one, according to the writer, what is economic recession? Please, my students, give the answer according to what the writer said, the writer's opinion on economic recession. But if otherwise, you were not asked to give it according to the writer, that's why we say, except being stipulated otherwise. If otherwise, okay, you are to just give us according to how you were able to understand the passage. That is for number three. Number four, so where your answer should show comparison. That's juxtapositions. Okay? Where your answer should show comparison between two or more things in the passage, your answer must indicate or show the comparison. Now, there are some comprehension passages that are comparative in nature. What do I mean by comparative? Let me break it down. I know my students begin to say, uncle, what is comparative in nature? The writer is talking about life in the city versus life in the village. Life in urban centers versus life in the rural centers. Now, you are to create a balance. That comprehension is what is referred to as what? Juxtaposition. Okay? Juxtaposition. You are to juxtapose, okay, between life in the city and life in the village should show comparison, which is what? Juxtaposition, or you're asked to juxtapose, okay, between two or more things mentioned in the passage. Your answer must indicate or show the comparison. Now, the question can be, what did the writer say about life in the city and life in the rural area? Now, you are going to give me two answers. You are going to give me what the writer's opinion about life in the city, and you're also going to give me the writer's opinion about life in the rural area. That could just be your number one. Then your number one has two answers. Okay? The reason why your number one has two answers is because you are what? Juxtaposing. Okay? You are trying to compare and what? Contrast. So take note, where your answer should show comparison between two or more things mentioned in the passage, your answer must indicate or show the comparison. The very last thing for today, where you are asked to substitute, this is where students have problems. You begin to hear you say, okay, use a word or phrase, okay, to replace the underlying words in the passage. Please, I want every one of you to get a past question. Go back to your past question, English language. At the end of every comprehension pattern, you will see that there are some words that, were written out. Okay, these words were written out, and I will ask you to replace it, that you should use a word or phrase to replace it. Now listen, they are not asking you to use dictionary meaning or to give them a dictionary meaning of the word. Because many a times, I did also tell my students, okay, take note, that in English language is based on what? Context. Take note, it is based on what? Context. As at what context did the writer use that particular word is different from the dictionary meaning of that word. The context the writer used for that word is different from dictionary meaning. That's why I say, where you are asked to substitute a word or phrase in the place of some underlying words in the passage, the word must fit in perfectly, okay, in terms of meaning and collocation. This is what I'm trying to make you understand. Collocation. The collocation of the word is not a dictionary meaning. Now let's say, for example, in a sentence, the writer used weak. Okay? Weak in a sentence. It is expected. What is the other word for weak? Okay? You can use feeble. It follows in the connotation. But when you are replacing the word, take that same feeble back to the sentence where you have weak. Read through it with the feeble to see if it blends. If it doesn't blend, you are not on point. Okay? So please take note, when you are asked to substitute a word or phrase in the place of some underlying words in the passage, they must fit in. Take note, oh, they must fit in terms of what? Meaning and what? Collocation. Okay? They are not telling you to buy Oxford Dictionary and exhaust all the words enough. No. But when you know the word, let's say for example, you say rigid. Okay? And you take it to where the passage, the sentence, your replaced word, you want to use rigid to be strong. Put strong in between and see if it fits the rigid in that same sentence, in the context. If it fits in, you are on point. If it doesn't fit in, please look for another word or phrase. Till I come on the way, same time next week. By the grace of Almighty God, remain ever blessed and stay safe.